Understood. Adjusting target. 5 minutes equals approximately 750 words at 2.5 words per minute. Rewriting now. Target word count, 730 to 780 words. This morning you put something on before you walked out the door. You didn't think about it much. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe less. But that small automatic act is one of the oldest things a human being can do. Older than writing, older than farming. And the reason we started doing it has almost nothing to do with what most people assume. Because the obvious answers don't hold up. Warmth? Anatomically, modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years, but the earliest evidence of clothing tools, bone needles, hide scrapers, only shows up around 120,000 years ago. Widespread clothing adoption is closer to 75,000 years ago, which means for the first half of our existence we were naked, under the same African sun, and we were fine. Clothing showed up before we migrated into colder climates, so warmth can't be the starting point. Protection, if that were the main driver, the first things we'd cover would be feet and hands, the parts that take the most damage. Instead, across almost every early culture on record, the first things covered were the torso and groin, the least exposed areas. That's not a practical decision. That's something else. So what was it? In 2003, geneticists looked at something nobody had checked before. Lice. Specifically, the split between head lice and body lice. Head lice live in hair. Body lice live in fabric. They can't survive without it. Scientists traced when these two species diverged because body lice couldn't have existed before clothing did. The answer came back at approximately 170,000 years ago. That's the oldest biological timestamp we have for clothing. Not a needle, not a tool, a parasite. Something evolved specifically to live in our clothes, and that tells us the behavior was already established long before we have physical proof. But that still doesn't answer why. In 2009, archaeologist Ian Gilligan reframed the entire conversation. His argument was that clothing wasn't a practical invention first, it was a symbolic one. To make clothing, you have to look at a raw animal hide and picture yourself wearing it later. You have to plan, execute over time, and hold a future version of yourself in your mind while you work. No other animal does this. A chimpanzee doesn't look at a leaf and think about how it might be useful tomorrow. But we did. And the moment we started covering our bodies, we weren't just protecting skin. We were proving for the first time that we could think ahead. Clothing is one of the earliest physical artifacts of the modern human mind, but there's something even deeper underneath that. Shame, not in the religious sense, in the neurological sense. The awareness of being perceived, the feeling that your body is visible and being evaluated by others. This requires what psychologists call theory of mind, the ability to step outside yourself and see yourself through someone else's eyes. Dogs don't have this. Chimpanzees barely show traces of it. But somewhere in our evolutionary history, something clicked. We became aware that we were being watched, and once that awareness arrived, everything changed. The first person who wrapped animal skin around their body wasn't just avoiding the cold, they were choosing how they wanted to be seen. And once that idea existed, it never went away. Even in places where clothing was never needed for warmth, parts of the Amazon, Pacific Islands, Equatorial Africa, people still covered and decorated themselves. Beads, paint, feathers, tattoos, something was always there. Because the body was never just a body, it was a message. And here's where it reaches all the way to this morning. You got dressed today without much thought. But your brain was doing something ancient and deeply social the entire time. You weren't just picking fabric, you were constructing a version of yourself, deciding what to signal, negotiating between who you are and how you want to be seen. That discomfort when you show up somewhere in the wrong outfit. The way a new set of clothes shifts how you carry yourself in a room. That's not vanity. That's 170,000 years of social cognition running in the background. We didn't start wearing clothes because we were cold. We started because we became aware that we were visible, aware that visibility could be managed. Tomorrow you'll get dressed again, probably without much thought, But you're not just picking clothes, you're choosing how to be seen. And that instinct is older than any civilization that ever stood.